let's go over to our criminal map. Now, this is something I promised you guys, but it's become a little bit more than just a map. It's grown. It's grown. So I'm going to show you guys right here what I have of this presentation over here in Canva, right? Which I'm going to full screen. So this is my criminal map for Ramsey, Khalid, Ismael. Now, I actually, so this had a preset like conspiracy board, but I added myself. I spent the time adding little photos and details to make it more Johnny specific. Like, of course, I added the cabbage there. I added the Korean map. I added the soju. I added the Hank. You can see that there. The kick symbol, all that good stuff. That was all added by me. So I hope for those that saw the thumbnail, you appreciate the details on this, because a good old conspiracy board is always nice. I always love a good conspiracy board. This is something that you guys asked me to do. You asked me to put together a map of his crimes. But before I did that, I wanted to talk a little bit about my process, talk about putting this together, talk about how I got this information, and then we'll go into it. And also, this is going to be both a basic conversation and an advanced conversation. So let's start here. Okay, so how do I get my information? So I get my information from various sources. I get it from over there's the blah, blah, blah. I get it from news. I get it from, internet gossip. I get it from other places. Now I weigh all this information independently and with different weights. So for example, if some random YouTuber who's never been to Korea and knows nothing about Korea tells me something, I give it very little weight. If somebody tells me something and they have intimate experience with Korea, maybe they've been in the Korean legal system, et cetera, I give it a different weight. I say, oh, well, that they have experience. They're giving it a higher weight. If there's somebody who is deeply experienced, I give it an even higher weight. If there's somebody that I know is credible and can provide sources to prove they're credible, I give it higher weight. So that's sort of my ranking there when I'm taking in information. Next, and the Phoenix Wright, obviously, for those that don't know, the little anime looking attorney, that's Phoenix Wright. It's obviously made as a meme here. I'm talking about attorneys. I get information from attorneys, including Korean attorneys. Now, there's a very good reason why most attorneys in Asia do not want to directly report on cases. And this is something I've spoken about. One of the reasons why, of all the legal channels, it's really got to be a foreigner that's reporting on it most times, for two reasons. Number one, if you get something incorrect or if you make a misstatement, that can impact your firm deeply. It can also conflict you out from representing certain types of people, certain clients, right? It can cause problems. And the second, and this is a really big thing, is defamation. The defamation rules here are wildly different. Several attorneys, including foreign attorneys that are in Korea, have told me they do not want to say anything about this case because of the defamation rules, right? Now, could they be covered under public interest? Yes, but they might be dragged into court to fight that. And unless they're willing to go into court and fight that necessarily, and they're prepared to, risk their career, risk their reputation, risk their firm, right? They're a little bit afraid of defamation, because defamation hits different. That's why, for example, when I cover topics like Niji Sanji in Japan, right? Or if I cover anything in East or Southeast Asia, something happened in Singapore, something happened in another jurisdiction, right? The local attorneys, they'll be willing to talk to me privately, but they won't get on the stream and they won't talk about it. And the US is different. We have different defamation laws. In the US, if you say something that's true, that's a total defense. That's not necessarily true in Asia. Japan had a famous case about a dentist. A dentist got a bad review and they had to take it down because it was considered defamatory, despite the fact it was a genuine review on Google Reviews. That's known case law. You can look that up. It's Japanese law, right? That's just how it is. And we can argue whether it's good or bad. That's not for me to say. I'm not a moral, this is the morality of XYZ. This is the law. And that's what I try to focus on my channel, is this is a law. Now, of course, I am not a Korean lawyer, right? And I never pretend to be, but that's why I can speak to people indirectly and try to filter what they say to me. Now, that said, Are lawyers always right? This is a good one, including myself. By the way, I am not infallible. I, in fact, misspeak. I make misstatements. I can say something incorrect. I'm not infallible. I'm not some sort of like, the authority of God over here, where every word I say is unimpeachable, right? No, of course I can say something, and maybe it was maybe in the context it might not have been correct, right? Or there needs to be more detail, right? Or I could have misunderstood something, right? That can happen. And lawyers can also be incorrect. And I want to tell a funny story. So my attorney here in Korea was actually technically incorrect about something. So this is very funny. So I'm talking to people that know about the Korean system. So you see the little handcuffed emoji, little handcuffs over there. Some people I'm talking to, in fact, several people, have experienced the criminal system in Korea, whether they've been in prison here, or they've been charged with crimes, or they've helped defend people. They have extensive experience in the criminal system. Now, they told me that it is very possible that additional crimes, if they were committed under the same incident, could be added to the case that's going on right now and set for trial on the 20th of December. So they said, let me be very clear, that additional crimes, if they're related, could be added. My lawyer said that's highly unlikely. Now, of course, they're lawyers, right? So what did they say there? He said it's highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. Does that mean it'll never happen? No. They're just giving the impression that it's highly unlikely to happen, right? So I'm listening to it and I'm like, okay, you think it's unlikely, but he thinks it's very possible. So let's see if the lawyer's right. And the lawyer for this case is a she. So let's say it's a she, right? The she said it's improbable. The other one said it's possible. There's not necessarily in conflict, but one of them's kind of saying it's not going to happen. One of them's kind of saying it is, right? Or it could. So the non-lawyer was right. They added the additional charge of violation of the Minor Crimes Act. So now at trial, instead of one thing, obstruction with business or interference with business, it's the same thing, right? Interference with business. And now you've got interference with business, crime 1, crime 2, Minor Crimes Act, violation of Minor Crimes Act. So there's now 2 things because they've added that. They added that on December 5th, officially to the record. It's been confirmed, right? So these 2 things are there. So the lawyer who said it's improbable, well, I mean, they're not technically wrong, but they gave me the wrong impression, right? Now we're going to talk about the stacking because this is confusing. We're going to talk about the stacking charges today. So don't worry, I'm going to explain that. That's why I say we're moving to 102. But one thing I want to say I put the most weight in, and that's why I put it in the little red circle. And this is what I give by and large the 99.9% in fact, I will say, if I get something that I see this, I will 100% report on it without any delay. And that is information that has been confirmed by the court itself. If the court itself has verified the information, I'll report on it. And the best example of that is the court date. The court date, which now everybody has reported on and is citing me over, whether they give me credit or not. I'm the one who reported the court date. Nobody else would really know it if I didn't say it. Right. So that's verified. That's with the court. Anybody can go and, well, if they know the information, they could go and confirm that. If they know the information, it's possible to be confirmed. So that's something I will report without hesitation. I don't need to weigh it or balance it. It's something that's verified. It's in the system. Right. And then, of course, I also listen to comments, likes, emails, and you can always email me, andrewesquirelive@gmail.com, and I'm willing to answer your email, talk to you, or do whatever, right? So if you leave a comment and it's thoughtful, I will read it. And some people will ask me to change the way I present information. Some people want more basic information, and some people want more advanced information. And that's my next slide here. Some people need that special basic explanation. They need me to explain laws are when are rules of the government, and crimes are when you do a no-no, right? Some people need me to explain that. Jail is where the bad people go. Some people need that. And I love you. And if you're there, I still love you. I appreciate you. But that's a level of some people. Below that is general information. And that's where I just have to explain people, for example, that America and Korea are different countries. And in different countries, you have different rules and laws. And a lot of people are shocked that there are other countries that have laws that are different than the United States, and how they apply those laws are different than the United States. So, for example, a lot of people are shocked, and they still, in my comments to this day, they do not understand that, for example, in Korea, you're not typically arrested and thrown in jail pending a trial. You don't have to post bail. It's not typically required here, right? It's not something that's standard like it is in the United States, the bail system in the United States. And people really struggle with that. And I can say it a million times, but they have trouble with the very basic concept that these things are applied differently. Same thing with something like defamation. I've said it a million times, but I'll say it again. The defamation is applied differently. Let's go back. Let me go back one slide. When I say blah, 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 one source of information, and I can say this, is insiders. Now, you guys saw Fabarius, right? Obviously, Fab was the mod for Johnny. So now I've interviewed him, you guys know, and obviously he was Johnny's mod. He had inside information, and he's not the only one, right? Now, a lot of people don't want to come on camera like he did. Fab was very brave to do that because it takes a lot of balls to actually come on screen and show your face and come out and actually do that. Not everybody does that. Most people on the internet do not have the courage to do that, to put their face out there. They'll make a video without their face, without anything else, and they'll talk, or they'll talk smack or whatever else behind an avatar on a forum somewhere else. But he came out there on video, and I respect him for that. But there are other people out there too that have given me information that may not want to come on camera. And in fact, I would say that's the majority of people. That said, let's continue. So then we have specific information. This is where we're going today. And I know that a lot of people, if you are Korean or you have Korean background, you might think, Andrew, the stuff you're explaining is basic. In fact, you might even think that what I'm saying is not totally accurate. It's an overgeneralization or oversimplification, because to you, you already know the general things, and you're focused on the specifics. And so we're going to move more down that line. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about something that is specific, and it is a little bit more nerdy and procedural. And where you win or lose is in procedure. It's nerdy. It's super nerdy. It's super specific. It matters, but it's specific. And it's hard to go down and talk about that specific stuff without first laying a general background and some basic comprehension. And then at the bottom of the triangle, and you can see, I know you guys know that meme, that actually, that's the comic book guy. And in the legal world, we have the comic book guys. They're out there. Oftentimes I'll get a specific comment on my video, or I'll get an email, or I'll get something else that's very hyper specific. And if I can correct myself or make a clarification, I will do that. I appreciate if people can email me and issue me any comment they want to have on that. But some people just want to comment before they say anything, but that's fine. I get it. But sometimes the hyper specific thing is hard to talk about before you get a general background and before you get a general basis, right? All good memes. By the way, the top one, the kind of like wedge head, is from the midwit meme. If you guys haven't seen the midwit meme, I actually really like the midwit meme. But anyways, all right, so let's move into this. So we're going to start with super basic. This is for the real simple folks. This is for the simple jacks. Some of you have never been to Seoul, and some of you don't even know what Seoul looks like. So I created this little map here for you guys that probably never been to Seoul. You may not know what it looks like. This is a wild oversimplification. In fact, it's of course not technically accurate, right? It's in fact kind of off a little, but it's a general little map of Seoul to show you where things are and what happened. It's a cute map. It's not accurate, obviously, like to the millimeter, but it's close enough. And it shows you some things around Seoul. In fact, this is kind of more of a tourist map. You've got the Gimpo Airport, which is the old airport, used to belong to the U.S. Army before it was transferred over to Korea, and is their main domestic airport for Seoul. Also does some international flights to shorter destinations, China, Japan, primarily. You can get flights there. But then the main airport, the big airport, international airport, is Incheon, which is out of this picture, not even in this. So Incheon is out. This is just focusing on Seoul, and really not even the Seoul metro area, just kind of the districts of Seoul itself. You've got the 63 building, that's in Yeouido. That's one of the Hanwha buildings. You got the National Assembly. If you guys saw the big protests and all that going on, that was at the National Assembly building. And right above it, across the river, now that river in the middle is the Hangang. It's the Han River. So you got the river right down the middle of Seoul. You've got the World Cup Stadium. And where that laser pointer is, the red laser pointer, that is Hongdae. Now, obviously, it's a generalization, okay? That is a generalization. You're going to see more specifically. But that is Hongdae. Hongdae is important because currently the crimes with which Johnny is charged are going down in Hongdae. Okay? So that's where it is. That's where it's at. So the red dot, and pay attention because this is going to be very relevant, is what we're talking about for the crimes he is charged that are going to trial. So what is going to trial is only in Hongdae. Now, look at the other side of the map. Look at Lotte World. It's in the bottom right. Lotte World, L-O-T-T. That's in Jamshil, an area called Jamshil. That is on the other side of Seoul. It's also right next to the Olympic Park as well. It's generally a newer area that was built up later in time. Also, before that, in the middle is there you see Gangnam in the lower south. Gangnam and Coex. That's actually where I am. I've always stayed in Gangnam when I've lived in Seoul. I've been in Seoul about 3 years, time here on and off for a bit, probably going on 3.5 now. I once again officially have an apartment in Gangnam. Right. So I'm still in Gangnam, mostly because it's easier for Westerners to lease here. They have very flexible lease terms, which are easier for Westerners. Korean rental is actually very interesting. It's a whole separate topic. They have a very interesting system, including a system called Jeonse, which is very specific to Korea. And it's very unique, very interesting. There's some pyramid type things that can go on with that, but that's a whole separate issue explaining Korean housing, Jeonse, all that good stuff. But I'm down in Gangnam, right? That's in the central. Yes, Oppa Gangnam style. Yes, they have a statue by Gangnam Station doing the horse dance. Then north of that, you've got Itaewon. Now, Johnny Somali was in Itaewon. He did do some things in Itaewon, including defacing the statue. Itaewon is near the old base, the old Yongsan base. It is right in the middle of the city and is one of the biggest military bases out there, period. And in fact, if you think about it, Yongsan, the base in Yongsan, it's right in the middle of the business district of a city. There is no other city in the world that I can think of that the U.S. had a base in the middle of the city. Seoul's really the only one. It's kind of crazy. And then you have right about that Namsan Tower or Seoul Tower and Seoul Tower. You got Seoul Station, and then you've got a lot of the palaces, the walls, stuff like that. The Hanok Village, all that good stuff. That's in the north. Now, Johnny did his apology in sort of the northeast, and I'm going to point out to you exactly where he did that. But now you guys have a little bit of a general thing. Now, mind you, he is only at trial for Hongdae. He is not facing trial yet for Jamshil, for anything he did in Lotte World. This is very relevant. Let's continue. Okay. So, the courts in Seoul are divided up by districts. This is nerdy. Now this was basic. Okay, this was basic. Now we're getting more general, right? And we're about to get advanced. Okay? So hang on to your butts. We're class, hold on. We're getting a little more advanced here, okay? So Seoul is a very big city, and there's a lot of things that go down, a lot of crimes. A lot of crimes happen. And one court does not handle all the crimes in Seoul. In fact, they have, let me count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Five different zones. And they don't 100%, I don't think they 100% correspond to the numbers, but they're close. They're very close, close enough that I can use it. So, for example, Johnny's trial is in the Western District. The Western Court is handling it. That is zone number 8. So if you go over here, zone number 8, you can see it includes Mapogu, Soremun, and Umpyeong-gu. And those are districts, right? So these 3 are within the Western District. That's in Mapo. He did his crimes that he is at trial for in Mapo, in Hongdae. So, and actually, fun fact, the Western Court also includes Itaewon. So a lot of the drunk people and the party animals, they get handled by the Western Court. And they have a zero tolerance. The Western Court has a zero tolerance for obstruction of business or interference with business. They have a zero tolerance policy. So they were very happy to prosecute that. But if he'd done that in the Southern District or the Central District or the Eastern District or the Northern District, they may not have actually charged him with interference of business. They might have charged him with something else, but they might not have charged him with that. But so he kind of fucked up by messing around in the one district that does not play with interference of business. So he screwed around in the entirely wrong district. So by the way, the Southern District is down there here, the South and Southwest over here. You can see that over here. And then the Centrals, of course, gets Sochogu and Gangnam, right? So that would be, if I commit a crime right now where I'm at, I would go to the Central District if I committed a crime, which I'm not. But I am a rule-abiding visitor and rule-abiding resident when I'm a resident. There's a Northern District. The Northern District is, in fact, where he did the apology. He did the apology up here in Dobonggu, right? So you've got that up there in the north. And number 2, we'll say number 2. So that's the Northern District. You've got the Eastern District. That's number 4. That is where Lotte World is. So the Eastern District, Sonpagu, that's where Jamshil is. So that is where the crimes went against Lotte World. So let's go over here. So we're using the same map. So don't confuse you guys. I know it's getting more specific, right? Same map over here. All right. So you see in number 1, by the way, in Jongno-gu, in that district is where one of the statues is by the Japanese embassy. And that's the one he did the Diddy party. That's the one he rubbed himself in oil and he diddied himself up. So that's in the north there. I don't know whether that one would technically be the Northern District or the Central District. I'm actually not 100%. I think it's the Northern, but don't quote me on that one. See, that's one I don't know. And I'm going to admit I don't know it. Right. But he's not charged with a crime for that. Not at all. And his apology, you see there, is in the Northern District, number 2. Now, the crimes at Lotte World, which I put the little castle, and the incident on the train, on the metro, that was in number 4. Now, the metro could be in several districts because if you remember, he got stopped by the transit cops while he was on the metro. He could have still been coming from the Northern District because he was staying in the Northern District, and he took the metro down to number 4. So he was staying. So Johnny Somali was staying around number 2, and he took the train to number 4. So technically, it could have been in the Northern too, the train crimes and stuff, but he hasn't been charged with those in terms of going to trial, right? So let me be very clear. There have been police, and I'm going to explain this in further detail in a second. He has not had a trial date set. There's no trial date for the stuff in District 4 there, for the stuff in Lotte World on the metro. However, in number 8, he has been charged for what's related to the ramen in the convenience store. Now, and as you can see, number 8, which is the Western District, I also have the pizza because you see the pizza incident, ABC Pizza, and I also put an angry girl, because obviously he went around harassing, yelling, threatening to, and we have evidence today we're going to watch that Johnny Somali intentionally muted his video when he directly threatened to rape somebody or have somebody raped, right? We have direct evidence. We see his finger. You're going to see his finger pressing the button to mute his chat, and then he makes the threat. Let's continue. So that's what we've got. Now, once again, in Hongdae, we only have the little ramen bowl. We only have the 7-Eleven convenience store. We don't have ABC Pizza, and we don't have the harassment. And yes, the harassment stuff is a long shot because it would require a foreigner to file a police report and then for the police to take that seriously and prosecute it. It's a long shot. Does it matter that it's filed though? Yes, because it does put pressure, even if it's not the by itself important. In the aggregate, it's important. And that's what I want to get to with the next part, right? So this is a distinction in Korea. And I want to make this very clear. We also have this in America, okay? But there is a distinction in Korea. And that is, there's a report made by a victim and a report made, I call it a public report. You could also call it a third-party report. Think about it this way. If your neighbor calls the police and says, someone stole my dog, the police are going to take that very seriously, especially if there's proof of that. Like, let's say there's video and it shows someone stealing their dog and they say, someone stole my dog. The police are going to take that seriously. Now, let's say your neighbor calls the police and says, I think someone stole my neighbor's dog. And they've got video. Well, guess what? The police may take the report. In the US, if you called, they would take the report. But are they going to think it's serious as the report where the person whose dog was stolen says, that's my dog? And what's even worse, what if the person whose dog was stolen says, I don't care, or I don't want to talk about it? Do you think the police are going to take that as seriously? No, they're not. So the best situation is if a victim will report it, which is why I have repeatedly asked, and I've said on this channel very clearly, we need victims to come forward. We need the people that were wrong to come forward. In the case of the Mapo trial, the case of the Western trial about the 7-Eleven in Hongdae, the 7-Eleven probably was the one, that brought in the report. And that's probably why they took it very seriously, because they pressed the charges. They were the victim and they pressed the charges versus a member of the public. Now, anybody can go report something in Korea. Anybody, whether they're foreign, a stranger, a just member of the public, anybody can report it. Now, does that mean that public reports don't matter at all? No, they're not worthless. However, they are given far less weight than the report of a victim. And there is a distinction in a report of the victim and a report that's a third party, right? I understand this is difficult. I understand it's kind of high IQ. And that's why I waited till to say this and make that distinction. I've subtly tried to make this distinction, but I want to make it very clear now. And I got this graph over here for you because this actually makes it very, very clear. So here's what we have. And this is the most accurate and up-to-date map we have, or kind of grid you have. Think about it in 4 different quadrants. Okay? So the most important is what is set for trial. What prosecutors have said, this can go to trial. We're signed off on this, is going to trial. It's clear. There's unambiguous. It's verified by the court. I've got the records. We have obstruction or interference. You can say one way or the other. Interference with business, right? Now, I want to clarify something. I may have used the word obstruction in the past, and I meant it in the American sense. There's an American sort of legal idea concept of obstruction of the law or obstruction of justice, which is essentially when you're lying to police, when you're messing with police. So I do apologize if anyone was confused when I use the word obstruction to mean the American thing instead of the Korean thing. I know that can be confusing, and I do apologize if I confuse somebody. I'm going to try not to use that word. I'll just say lying to police to refer to crimes related to lying to police. And I won't use the word obstruction because you're going to get confused. So when I'm talking about obstruction now, from now on, from this stream forward, I'm going to talk about obstruction with business. So anyways, we have only two things at trial. And I want to be very clear about this. These distinctions matter. And I haven't, maybe at some streams, I've talked about these separately, but these lines and distinctions matter. The only two things that are set for trial are obstruction or interference with business and a violation of the Minor Crimes Act. Now, the Minor Crimes Act is 100% a fine. You're going to get a fine for that. Obstruction, interference with business is typically a fine. That's the typical punishment. Technically, on the books, you can get a maximum of 5. Almost nobody gets that. Right? It's unlikely to get 5. If it gets 6 months or a year, that will be like a massive W. It's possible. But once again, that's one of the reasons why we're putting a lot of pressure on this to show it's an atypical case. It's a case in which heavier sentencing is merited. And the typical slap on the wrist is not merited in this case. That's why we're doing this. Beyond that, we have victim reports. We do have victims of defamation. One of the YouTubers I spoke to has a defamation case, which defamation insult can be criminal in addition to civil. So that's something where they are the victim and they're saying, this person did that to me. We also have deep fakes. Deep fakes of people, including some of the YouTubers at deep fakes. I was shown one. That Johnny had where it was all of the YouTubers, the Korean YouTubers, making out with each other. That's a sexual deepfake. He had that on his phone. They're the victims. Direct causation. Direct victim files a report. Get it? Victim report. Now, there's public reports, third party. This is the type of thing I'm considering filing about Lotte World, right? Other people have already filed it about Lotte World, right? Other people have filed a railway law violation. They filed obscenity. They filed business interference on behalf of Lotte World. So they filed it on behalf of Lotte World. They filed it on behalf of other businesses. They filed a bunch of other things as public reports. A bunch of people have done this. It's not me only. It's the YouTubers have filed it. Members of the public have filed it. And like I said, those public reports by themselves, they don't weigh that much. They're not that serious. But in the aggregate, they matter. They can matter. Or at least put pressure. At the bare minimum, they can put pressure on the system to take it seriously. Right? At a bare minimum. And then last, and that final corner, which I give the lowest weight to, is speculative. Speculative is something for which I have no proof there was a victim report or a public report. So there's a lot of things people have speculated on. In fact, even in my stream, I have speculated on stuff. That means I'm saying this, if somebody was a victim or whatever, they wanted to file that, they could try to do it XYZ. That's speculative. And I try to make it clear when I'm talking about speculation. For example, when I'm reviewing videos, I'm largely talking about speculation. And it's my reasonable speculation, or it's speculation based on the opinions of others. People have said XYZ, right? But that's speculation. Talking about the terrorism charges, talking about computer crimes, talking about other stuff, many other things are speculation. It's possible, but we don't know. I don't know whether there's been a report filed. I don't know whether there's been a victim report. I don't know whether it's anything. It's definitely not set for trial. So that's the 4 quadrants. I am probably going to come up with a, way to give you an update based on these 4 quadrants. So When there's a new thing that's filed, I'm going to say, where is it going? Is it going in the top left for trial? Is it going under a victim report, which is given a more weight? Is it a public report, which is less weight? Or is it speculative? Because that matters. So now you guys know what's up with this.